Guys, I'm teaming up with my good friend, retired Navy SEAL Jocko, and we're going to do something very special. Jocko started Jocko Fuel after finding out some of the supplements that he was buying for his family were filled with heavy metals and ingredients he wasn't aware of. He wanted a line of supplements and consumables that had all of the good, effective ingredients and none of the bad. So, he made it happen. I got set up with all of the key products, and I want to do the same for you. Jocko Go. They are energy drinks for clean, sustainable energy. Jocko Milk Protein for 30 grams of delicious grass-fed protein, plus a whole line of supplements to support mood, focus, hydration, and more. Jocko Fuel supplements are scientifically formulated and made with ingredients that are clinically tested. They are better for you options with no added sugar or artificial sweeteners and no gray area ingredients or banned substances. It is clean fuel without compromise, and right now you can get 20% off when you use the promo code Chael at JockoFuel.com or just click on the link below.
Robert Whittaker, Paulo Costa. Where do we begin? I mean, it's a very interesting thing. One thing going into this fight is I believed if these two went out and do what they're used to doing, it was going to be one of the most brutal fights that had ever been signed. I mean, this was scheduled to be a bludgeoning. Don't forget, Robert Whittaker doesn't have a meaningful takedown that you could expect him to turn to, and neither does Paulo Costa. When you think of it from that perspective, I mean, Paulo Costa is so good that he wanted to be called the Eraser. Like, that's what he and his team put down for his moniker, and then you, the fans, renamed him the Terminator. To get a name like the Eraser or the Terminator, right? There's certain things that you have to do. There's a style that you have to fight with. Now, when you're talking about Robert Whittaker, you're talking about very short list, no more than 5 top kickboxers signed to the Ultimate Fighting Championship. So there's never a good time to fight Robert Whittaker. There's never a time where that's not going to be an extremely difficult draw. But the worst time to get Robert Whittaker is when he's coming off a loss. And he's only had a very small handful in his entire career. But if you go back and you can just do it by the numbers, go to SureDog right now, look up Whittaker, and where you see a loss, go look at what happened the next time. He's one of these guys that knows how to come back. He's one of these guys that knows how to dig deep. He's one of these guys that stays hungry. And it's a very difficult thing to do. To reinvent yourself, to stay modern, to stay current with the times, it's very hard to do, particularly when you're a world champion like Whittaker. When you have a belt that says you're the best in the world, there's not an arrogance, but there is a confidence that comes along with that. Understanding that you're in a sport that many say is in its infancy. Many say the sport of mixed martial arts is just now getting started. When you're in something like that and you become the champion, to believe that you've got the answers, that you've got it all figured out, that if it is in fact in its infancy, you're already full grown. But to stay humble and modern, to stay current, it's an incredible thing. Randy Couture, whose career lasted as long as anybody's. I want to say his last fight was at 47 years old, but I want to say his last world title fight was like 44 years old. And I know I'm very close by these numbers. But I would watch Randy. I would watch him in Oregon when he would coach high school teams. But he would go into the room and he would do the workouts with the high school kids. And I maintain to this day that that is the secret ingredient to Randy's success. There was no way that the next generation could pass him up. There was no way that the next generation could have new skills and new tactics or new training methods that would surpass what he did because he was training with the kids. That was the big difference, and Randy never speaks about it. I'm not fully confident that Randy is aware that that might have been the secret to his success. And when you look at somebody like Robert Whittaker, who's always growing, he's always learning. I mean, one thing from a physicality standpoint in his match last night, he was fast. I mean, right? One thing that happens with time, your speed goes away. They say that your power is the last thing to go. I don't know that I can co-sign that statement. I don't even know that it's an accurate statement. I just know that that is a moniker and a phenomenon that exists within combat. Your power is the last to go. Well, maybe it is, maybe it's not. But the first thing to go, damn sure, is your speed. Not Robert Whittaker. He was faster last night. His punches were shorter. There was no whine. There was one combination where he was in his stance, and to do an uppercut, so many guys drop the arm, and then they bring the arm up. He did an uppercut, and he did it right there. Never moved his hand. He was right here. Paulo Costa came out, boom, and he just barely moved it. It was just a short uppercut, but I remember seeing it happen. I remember thinking, this is what I see from a youthful fighter who shows a potential to be a world champion. It's not what I see from a veteran fighter who already once upon a time had been world champion. I mean, Dricus du Plessis versus Robert Whittaker. The Robert Whittaker that fought last night is a very interesting matchup. And I could keep on going through the lineup with that. I mean, if I was to put Sean Strickland against the Robert Whittaker that fought last night specifically, right? There's something about, and everybody performs their best, every athlete, with certain ingredients. Many guys, it might be a weight class. We've spoke over here many times that Daniel Cormier's optimum weight class wasn't 205 where he was a world champion. It was actually heavyweight where he was also a world champion. I can tell you personally, growing up from a wrestling background, the semifinals was always my best round. I couldn't tell you why. I can just tell you when my career was done and I look back. I could do that from a mixed martial arts standpoint to personalize and look at round number 2 was my worst round. If you were going to beat me, you're going to have to do it in round number 2. If we got to round 3, you were not going to catch me. I couldn't tell you why. I don't know that Robert Whittaker could sit down and articulate for you what it is about going into a match coming off of defeat. I don't know if it's a hunger. My guess, there's largely a fear. You only get so many losses, 2 in a row, you're never having a conversation about title again. 3 in a row, you're eligible to be cut. So it's just one of these situations where what is it about last night? What is it about each time that he gets beat and he gets knocked down that he never stays there? Right? A real fighter isn't about the punches and the kicks. That's called aggression. That's not fighting. I know a lot of greats that are even in our Hall of Fame today that shouldn't be there because they weren't fighters. The second the going got tough, they quit. And that's not what a fighter is. That is a term over my lifetime that has been corrupted. If you're good at punching and kicking somebody, that's called aggression. If you can handle the punches and kicks coming at you, that's what a fighter is. Robert Whittaker is as true and pure of a fighter as I've ever seen. He's an absolute lock to go into the Hall of Fame. And when I look at Whittaker and where he needs to go from now, it's the same analysis that I will look at Paulo Costa and where Paulo needs to go from now, which is quite simply no more breaks. No more year delays. No more talking about talking and meeting about meetings and thinking about thinking. Got to compete. Got to go in there, get those contracts signed, get back into that training camp, and turn over as many performances as you can. It's the one thing that brings pause when you talk about Robert Whittaker's career. Where should we go with him now? Well, I need to know that he's active. I need to know that he can take on 3 fights in a year. And the same thing goes for Paulo Costa. Paulo Costa might be everybody's favorite fighter. I was live in the arena. You would not believe the reception that audience gave when Paulo Costa came through the curtain, man. They have missed him and they were thrilled to see him. And he looked great. He looked great. You didn't have anybody give up last night. You didn't have anybody quit last night. You didn't have anybody leave their tools in the back, get scared, get tired. You had 2 guys that went out. They brought it. 15 minutes goes by. You turn to the judges, ask them who won. But what would happen if they were keeping a full schedule? How much better would they be doing if there wasn't a year and a half gaps in between? It's food for thought. It was an awesome fight. The winner was Paulo Costa. I'm not comfortable telling you the loser. I apologize. The winner was Robert Whittaker, but I'm not comfortable telling you that Paulo Costa was the loser. I don't think there was a loss last night. I think both guys, they fought in a co-main event. I think at a worst, they both return to a co-main event. These are 2 popular guys. It was a wonderful fight, and that is the recap.